Um, it wasn't a pleasant time. It wasn't a pleasant time mainly because I was resisting. And that's a key thing to remember too, that during this time, if you can remember not to resist, that will make it a whole lot easier. I didn't learn that. I fought it tooth and nail because, for one thing, I wanted things to stay the same. I like when things are comfortable. I'm okay with that. I didn't want to make the effort of changing. That was one thing that I learned. But the wilderness experience exposes and removes. It exposes things that I wouldn't have thought that were there. I wouldn't have thought that I would be out partying all night long, because when I was in high school, I didn't party. I was mainly about my books and stuff. But I had the thing of, I'm going to party, hang out, but doggone it, you better get up in the morning and go to class or go to work, because if you can party all night long, you can get up and you can go to work the next day. That was my motto. That was maybe the only thing at the time that I didn't reject from my dad. Because and it was interesting. That prodigal daughter phase was very interesting to me. But that was also a wilderness experience that you might not consider. The prodigal son. Now Ernest says that we can navigate our way through that phases through right thinking. A person is able to uncover the appearance of imperfection and reveal the perfect idea. Why is that important? Because I didn't know this back then. So I had to experiment, and I had to learn it, and I had to make mistakes, and I had to do all kinds of different things. I don't know, is anybody else here made mistakes? Had to unlearn stuff, learn stuff, think of, oh my God, I can't believe I blew that again. And keep having to repeat something over and over and over again until you finally get it. The next phase is after you've gone through all of this, what arises from this is you have a new consciousness. But you have to learn the way to do it. Okay, let's go. The Israelites did it for 40 years, walked around the desert for 40 years. The prodigal son, I don't know, it doesn't say how long, but eventually the prodigal son came to himself and said, I'm going to go back home. Okay, basically, but what that says is I'm turning away from but from the material world, from ego, from all of that, and I'm turning back to spirit. I am changing my consciousness. I don't have to live like this. That's that phase. Now in the new consciousness phase, let's look at Jesus' story, Jesus' temptation story. Now I'm sure maybe you are familiar with it, maybe you're not, but the Bible says that Satan took Jesus out into the wilderness to be tempted by the Holy Spirit. Now for us, all that says is Jesus had an inner conflict within himself. He was warring with the old man and changing his thoughts. But you still have to overcome the patterns of, the societal patterns, the teachings and everything that you were brought up with. Okay. Everything that you were brought up with. But the way Jesus did it, so Satan would say, after 40 days and 40 nights of fasting, and that fasting for us would be, he's purified his consciousness, okay? And he is now hungry, but he's hungry physically and also hungry spiritually. That's how I see it. And Satan, the devil, the ego, thought, personality, whatever you want to call it, says to him, take these stones and turn them into bread. And Jesus replies with, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Okay, what does that mean? Simple. It's real simple. He took that thought and he met it with spiritual truth. And he replaced it with spiritual truth. The spiritual truth is, all I have to do is maintain my focus, my attention, my awareness of spirit, and I will be okay. And this will pass. I will defeat this. I will overcome this by maintaining my focus on spirit. And each time, through each temptation, he did the exact same thing. But that was the example for us. It doesn't matter what we come up in life, what comes up in life, what our external circumstances are, what the conditions are, what the effects are. It doesn't matter about any of that. If we can just remember this one thing, maintain your focus on spirit, regardless of what else is going on. But being human, our first reaction usually is the human reaction. Well, I'll say this, I know for a fact for myself, it's the human reaction. And I'm not even aware that I'm even in a situation until I look back over it and go, you blew that one. You didn't do that one quite right. Oh well, that lesson will come up again, and maybe this next time around you'll be aware of it, and you will reach for your spiritual tools first. Because what I do, I don't know if anybody else does this, I put a prayer out there. I put a treatment out there. I put an affirmative prayer out there. And doggone it, if I forget that I didn't put it out there, made these conditions and said all these things, and then when it's smack in my face, I don't remember that I said it, and so then I'm fighting with the circumstances. I'm arguing with the circumstances. What I'm doing is getting mad at the circumstances or whatever, when I put the prayer out there to begin the series, to begin the motion, and then I forget that I've done it. And then when I finally come to myself 2 or 3 days later, maybe a week later sometimes, depending on how stubborn I've been, I'll realize all Spirit did was answer the prayer that I put out there, gave me exactly what I wanted. The prayer is working. Why am I arguing? Why am I resisting? Why am I doing all of these different things when I put it out there already? And I go through it so many different times. It's like, at what point am I going to remember that this is what I put out there, that I'm getting it back, that it's the law of cause and effect? But I forget the cause, and I'm just focusing on the effect. And I'll keep going through and cycling through and going through, and then keep not passing the test, basically. I just look at them as tests. Like, well, I didn't pass that one again. At what point am I going to realize, instead of stopping to say, why is this happening? I know it means I put something out there. And I know it means it's being answered. Now, it could be just yesterday. It could have been 10 minutes ago. It could have been 10 years ago. But by 10 years, I've forgotten that I put it out there. But that's beside the point. The point is, I have to remember that I set everything in motion. I set everything in motion by the thinking, by my thoughts. And when I remember that, it's okay. Why is this important? Well, for one thing, it would save me a lot of grief. It would save me a lot of heartache. It would save me a lot of belly aching. It would save me a whole bunch of time, because Jesus' method, he dealt with it immediately and it was over. After he went through the 3 temptations, it was over and done with. Now, you're faced with a choice. I'm faced with a choice. I've already tried the 40 years in the wilderness, 20 years, 25 years, 30, 40 years in the wilderness. Okay, I learned a lot of things. I worked through a lot of things in my journal. But going through these classes, I've learned you don't have to do it that way. That's the long and hard way. I can't just do a treatment and be finished. Okay, or I can do the prodigal daughter, prodigal son thing, and go out and experience everything and whatever, and then come to myself. Or I can do what Jesus did, and that is, what's the spiritual truth? Deal with it with the spiritual truth, which is much faster, much easier. And I prefer to do that now. I don't always get it right. I'm not even going to pretend that I get it right. I don't always get it right. Most of the time I get it wrong until I finally learn that. But then I guess that's where the practice comes in. You keep practicing over and over and over and over again until you get it. And then after that, even after you think you've have it, it's going to come back up again anyway. Why? Because this is we're human. We're human. We're having a human experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And it's going to happen again. Well, maybe it won't take so long when it does happen. Like, for instance, with Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Let this cup pass away from me, but not my will, your will be done. That was a human moment. But the truth of it is, your will be done. The truth of it is, I'm focusing back on spirit. The truth of it is, when we focus on spirit, it doesn't matter what the circumstances look like, because they're going to be changing anyway. Every single time you have a thought, you're going to change your circumstance. Every single time. And that's the only thing you have to really concern yourself with, is focus on spirit. So, 3 things that you can take away from this. Prayer works. And remember that you made the prayer. That's number 1. Recognize when your prayer is happening, when it's being fulfilled, when it's unfolding, when it's manifesting. Save you a lot of grief, save you a lot of angst, save you a lot of everything. Surrender your expectations and surrender to the process. More pain has happened to me because I don't want that to change. I'm comfortable with that more than anything else, because I don't want to let it go. I'm not recognizing that I have to let it go in order to go to the next level or to whatever the prayer is trying to manifest, but I have to let some things go. But now I'm able to recognize it a little bit more, a little bit better, that certain things are going to have to let go. People might have to fall away, situations might have to fall away, all kinds of things might have to fall away, but that's okay. If I recognize that and understand that, then there's no problem. It's when I don't recognize that, it's when I don't remember that, that's when the problems come in. So, to conclude, I'll just end it with this. Ernest Holmes says, God can't give us anything unless we are in a mental condition to receive the gift. And that means you're going to have to go through your wilderness experience. You're going to have a lot of them. I'm going to have a lot more of them. As long as I'm on this earth, if I plan on growing, I have to recognize and understand I'm going to have a lot more wilderness experiences if I want to achieve what I want to achieve. Thank you.